When you start seeing yourself differently, that this is your new level in terms of result and win, you operate at a new level. But when you don't receive that, you're rejecting that, you are continuing to play small. You are still hiding. You're not playing a bigger game. Are you willing to be courageous to take massive, messy action to make it happen and believe yourself and becoming that next version of you?
Yes, let's dive into that. How do you do that? What do you teach?
Yeah, and so this is the big part, first of all, is like, well,
welcome back to Big Asian Energy. I'm just curious. Let me know if you ever felt this, where maybe you're at a meeting, maybe you're trying to launch a new business, maybe you're a speaker or want to be a speaker, but there's like that voice inside of you, like that little naggy voice that goes, maybe you're not good enough. Maybe hyping yourself up in self-promotion isn't right for you. And how will other people think if you keep talking about yourself? Now, if you've ever experienced any of these things, first and foremost, welcome to the show, because this is what we jam on all the time. And more importantly, I'm really excited because today we're talking to an expert who is truly one of the best voices in teaching people how to not just stay humble, but also get seen, so that they are actually able to see their personal branding, their strategy, their ideas, get seen, get heard everywhere without coming off as, let's just say, being arrogant. Today she is helping coaches, speakers, founders build credibility that drives demand. She's an 11-time LinkedIn learning instructor, a 7-time UN speaker, and the youngest ever to generate $12 million in sales in under a year, selling 6-figure executive programs. Today, we are talking to Diana YK Chan, a personal branding and authority strategist who specifically helps entrepreneurs become in demand by elevating their position, visibility, and market value. Welcome to the show.
John Wang, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so delighted. Woohoo!
I'm so delighted. So just to give you a little background, we met at actually an event a while back, specifically on how to build deeper relationships. But even before then, I felt like there was something in your content that I actually came across on LinkedIn. I was like, dang, Diana knows her stuff. So there's a few different topics I would love to dive into today, like imposter syndrome and such. So should we just jump into it? What do you think?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Now, I know you talk a lot about personal branding, and we've had some great personal branding experts on the show. But one of the things that I really like about you is you don't just talk about the strategy, you talk about the mindset, specifically around imposter syndrome. Tell me a little bit about what imposter syndrome is and how it affects us.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, imposter syndrome is something we all face. Like 70% of people have faced it in their lifetime. It happens when we feel like we are not enough or we are not competent enough. So we have these doubts. And what's so important with the work that I do in building a personal brand is how you see yourself shapes how others see you. How you see yourself shapes how others see you. So a big question is, what's the story we're telling ourselves? Are we telling ourselves that we're amazing, or are we telling ourselves that we're just so average? Right?
That's a great point. I feel like I struggle with that sometimes too. Like this idea of like that there's an outer self and then there's an inner self, right? Like we see ourselves in the outer self and inner self. And I feel like the outer self always feels much bigger than how I view my inner self. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, right. So a big part is going back to our self-talk, right? Something that I've learned is nothing has meaning except the meaning you give it. Nothing has meaning except the meaning you give it. And so a big part is, how often do we take the time to even celebrate our wins and milestones? How often do we take the time to acknowledge how far we've come? So, part of my story, I actually struggled with imposter syndrome growing up. Having been growing up back and forth in Hong Kong and Canada, I always felt I was not enough. I wasn't Asian enough, not Canadian enough. And so I would dim my light. I would felt like I did not belong. I would struggle with feeling not fitting in. And it wasn't really until the last decade or so in doing this work, what I realized is that we need to first start valuing ourselves. When you start valuing yourself, that's when others will start valuing you. And so in order to overcome that is like identifying your value. Like, what value do you bring to this world? Like identifying that. And this work, when I did as an interview coach, oftentimes people will write this down, list of things of their value, but they may not believe it yet. So the second step is you got to believe in your value, which is the mindset. What are those thoughts that you're telling yourself? And the third step is really around voicing your value. Because when you start sharing it, telling with others, you're reprogramming your subconscious mind of what you're telling about yourself to others. And other people will start believing it. And so if we wanted to, when we think of personal branding, it's all about perception management, reputation management. How do you want people to see you? What do you really want to be known for? And that is shapeable, which means you can control the narrative of how others see you.
Now, I love this part here, the controlling your own narrative. How do you actually do that? Like, you're an 11-time LinkedIn learning instructor. Like, you sell out courses on LinkedIn all about this. So I assume that you're really good at LinkedIn. And that makes me wonder why I ask, like, so is this about just posting more? Like, how do you control your narrative and your reputation so other people see you as an expert?
Great question. So this is not about posting more. I think if I take a step back, how I even became a LinkedIn learning instructor, I'll take a story step back, was I always knew I wanted to be a speaker when I was in high school, university, but I always felt like I had the softest voice in class. So I felt that I was like not good enough to be a speaker. And so what I did was I started my own LinkedIn live stream show of doing talks and really picturing myself speaking on global stages, making a big impact, really visualizing that success. So for 2 or 3 years straight, I would have my own show once or twice a month. And that got me to become a better speaker and how to think on my feet. First, I have to speak from my notes. So going from even speaking from my head of memorizing things to speaking from my heart was a big shift. And by doing so, I started speaking more authentic.
I got to pause you there for a second. Tell me more about that. What does it mean to talk from your head versus talking from your heart? And why do I want to talk from my heart?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when you're talking from your head, you're not trusting yourself. When you're talking from your head, your logical mind is saying that I am not good enough. And so therefore, I'm talking from my head, and therefore you are not connecting with your audience. When you're talking from your heart, this is like the feeling, but the heart piece is the feeling piece, the emotion piece that you speak from, where people can really feel your sincerity, your authenticity, your vulnerability. And that's how you really connect for people to want to trust you and believe in you and want to work with you. And so a big part of the work that I've done in helping people get hired to top companies, get big jobs, or sign on clients is learning to trust yourself more, to go from the head to the heart.
Okay. So I want to slow this down because I think that this is a really critical thing. I feel like it's something that we hear a lot, right? Like, believe in yourself. You just got to like have that self-worth, like, but on a practical level, I find that it's an easy thing to remind ourselves, but it's hard to actually execute. How do you, when you work with clients, like, I feel like that, like, I just don't believe, like, there's such a core part of this because it's a human experience, right? How do you actually get them to a point where they go, yeah, I am going to go and, put myself in, because it's scary, right? It's scary to put ourselves on opportunities. I am going to go for that opportunity. I am going to step on stage, or I'm going to start that business. Like, how do you actually get them to make that transition? Because, like, just believe in yourself. Sometimes it's hard to do.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? And so I talk about this and when you don't believe in yourself yet, borrow that belief. Borrow that belief of where people who believe in you. Like, have you ever had instances where you didn't feel like you could do something, but someone told you that you can do it? Like for me, like when I started my business, I was like, I don't know.
I have a hat that literally says I believe in you, and I feel like I should wear this. All right, keep going.
Wait, when you just didn't believe yourself.
I just like ran off stage to grab my hat.
I made
a hat that says I believe in you. For that reason, yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So let me tell you this story. Was when I lost my job in 2011, I was doubting myself. I was like, do I find another job or do I start my business? And I knew deep down my heart was like, start your business so you can make a greater impact in this world. But I had doubts. I had fears because what if it fails? And then my boyfriend at the time, was saying that I believe in you. You got this. Worst case, we'll be fine. Like, meaning if you don't make any money, you don't get any clients, we'll be totally fine. Just that one word of belief was all I needed, where I borrowed that belief to believe in myself to just go for it. And as a result, that you borrow that belief that, okay, someone believe in me, that I'm just going to give it all. And so a lot of the work that I do when clients don't believe in themselves, I'm the ultimate hype person, their cheerleader. They tell me I see possibilities for themselves that they don't see it yet, that I see their unique skill set. So I'm the one telling them, this is what I see for you, what's possible for you. As a result, they're starting to believe it. And when they start believing it, they start playing a bigger game. And when they start playing a bigger game, they share their message more with a more impact. They're speaking from their heart, and they're going to connect with their audience more. And so that's the transformation that you need to go through. Is if you don't believe yourself, find those who believe in you. Find those evidence, and you review that evidence. And it's going to help you see, this is who I am. This is the impact that you're making. And so one of the examples that was a big shift for me in my own career journey the last decade was when someone asked me this question of impact, of like the work that I did in terms of helping people get jobs. Like, how much more money did I help people make? Not only from a confidence level, but a tangible impact, tangible level. And when I start documenting the impact of how much more money I helped people make, it was like millions of dollars. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm really good at what I do. I'm really good at this. I help people make more money, like 10 to 20x more. So I start seeing myself differently of how I showed up, the impact that I can make, the transformation I bring to the table. And so the stories that I would tell would be totally different.
I love this. And I do think that a lot of times the biggest enemies that we come across in our own work is really ourselves. It is our own self-belief. It is the way that we show up to ourselves, right? Like I love IFS, internal family systems, for this, because I'm a really big believer that we just have all these parts, like voices in our heads that are kind of developed at different stages. I remember a quote that I had come across. I think it was like I was a teenager, and the quote goes, "If you don't believe in yourself, believe in me who believes in you." And it sounds so corny, but I literally would repeat that in my head. And this was not like from somebody I knew. This was just a random quote. And I'm like, I didn't even have somebody who believed in me. I just believed that someone out there would. And I will repeat that in my head all the time. I'm being like, believe in me who believes in you. And I'm like, great. Then I could just awesome. So I love this concept, because the truth is that we're actually terrible at judging our own skills, right? Like we're terrible at it. We always underestimate our true capabilities. We always underestimate our true potential. And then we flip between, okay, if I believe in myself, am I being arrogant and unrealistic? And you know, if I believe in other people to believe in myself, it feels like they will be a better judge of us.
Absolutely.
Right? Do your clients ever feel like you're just kind of hyping them up though? Like you're not like, because I think that's got to be a part of it, right? Like, are you being also honest with them?
Well, a big part of the work, it's not just about being the hype, right? It ultimately is what is the tangible goal or result we're trying to achieve, right? A lot of times there's something tangible. It could be, well, they want to make this career change. They want to get this job. They want to make more money. They want to get the promotion. They want to get this client. And so a big part, what I find is, versus that's the belief. The next step then is we got to get into become. Become needs to happen first before the result, which is your identity. Right. So a lot of times when things haven't happened yet, you want to ask yourself, how would I operate differently if I achieve this goal, or once I achieve this goal? Right. So you start then operating today at that level by becoming that person first, so that you already achieved this goal. And so the belief and become needs to come so that you can start put it into action and making that happen. And so a good example would be, like, for any of your audience, is like, if they want to get that promotion, or if they want to make 6 figures more than before, we need to start visualizing, what would that feel like by achieving that goal? And how would you start acting differently today? How would you start acting differently today? And so by doing that, you feel less stressed, because you already see that it's going to happen. You're not going to stress of how you're going to do this, when it's going to happen. You're going to start operating energetically, your frequency differently. So a good example, I'm going to tell, this is one of the biggest things that happened for me a couple of years ago, for me to play a bigger game. This is about standing out to playing a bigger game here. Was 2024 or 2023, I said, following year, I'm going to close my biggest 6-figure deal. I've sold it before. I've sold 6 figures for people. I'm going to start doing this for myself. So I said that I'm going to start closing my first 6-figure deal. And I shared it with a friend, and my friend was like my also ultimate hype friend. Like, yeah, you're going to do this. I believe in you. Right. I just shared it with one friend who told me that's like, yes, let's do this. And I was like, okay, done deal. It's happening. So how am I going to start operating today to show up that it's already happened? So I didn't stress about it. 6 months later, it happened. 6 months later, it happened. And so what I learned is that first belief, becoming, and then you start in motion, building, making things happen without stressing.
Right. Right. I love that. How did you become a 7-time UN speaker? I gotta ask, because I was looking at that and I was like, dang, okay, tell me about, because you're a professional speaker, right?
Yes.
How did you become a speaker, and what was that journey like for you?
Yeah. So my story started in university. I want to become a motivational speaker, and everyone was telling me, Diana, motivational speaker, look at people like the Tony Robbins. And I'm like, Tony Robbins, I don't have that powerful voice, that big, like,
make a presence.
And so for the longest time, I played small. Like, I had this dream of becoming a motivational speaker, and everyone's telling me, you got to be like this person, or you got to have traumatic events. So how I got to becoming a UN speaker was I started first becoming a great speaker by going to Toastmasters, starting my own channel, giving a lot of pro bono talks, appearing on like LinkedIn medias. And the way I got to UN was actually through a client who believed in me, where I helped her get hired into headquarters. She believed in it so much that she advocated for me and invited me to speak for International Women's Day on promoting yourself with confidence. And that one talk where I spoke in front of hundreds of people globally then became a series of invitations afterwards to that, one after another, and into UNICEF, into other Fortune 500 companies. And it was so interesting. The year that happened was the year when I put on my LinkedIn global speaker. Global speaker. I wanted to go into more global stages, not just locally here in Canada or the US. I wanted more global. And so I start believing myself even more, and someone helped me, gave me that the first stage there, which led to the 7. And because of that first talk at the UN, I posted about it. I shared about it here. So sharing wins. I shared the win that I was really proud and happy to serve an international audience. It got picked up by a content manager who then came to recruit me for my first LinkedIn learning course in 2022. And interestingly, the topic was not a topic I typically teach. She asked me to teach my first course on presenting with confidence. Which at first I was like, who am I to do this? Because it's not something I talk about. However, I guess she saw a lot of my videos, a lot of my content, and liked how I was teaching. And she wanted me to teach those steps on presenting with confidence. And so that how it got to 11, I had to pitch myself. I pitched 50 plus more course ideas afterwards instead of waiting for another chance.
50 course ideas afterwards?
50 plus course ideas. I got rejected many times.
Do I even have 50 course ideas?
I got rejected many times, John. I was like, well, if I did one and I reached the thousands of people, for me, the desire is to make an impact. How can I make a greater impact in this world? So I was like, well, it's one course going to reach a few thousand. What if I have like dozens of courses? And so I decided to do my research of what kind of topics are people interested in, but also what were the popular topics that I've been speaking about, such as networking, imposter syndrome, personal branding, career pivot, career clarity. All these were approved after multiple rejections. All the topics that I commonly speak about before I made my big transition from career coaching to business coaching, all got approved to become a LinkedIn learning course.
So it was not just throwing things at a wall. There was a kind of repetition. There was focus. There was that determination behind it. Was it hard seeing those rejections?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But a no does not mean not now. It just means the next opportunity around the corner, right? How do you deal with rejections? Because when I was in recruiting, working at Google, I rejected thousands of people. And I remember the people I've rejected, some of them got hired a year later or 2 years later. And so it really reminded me, like, how do we face rejections or obstacles? Do you just let it torn you down? Or do you think about other ways of how can you level up and improve yourself to improve your chance, again, to get back in?
Right. So it's rejection is not now, but it doesn't mean not ever.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And yeah.
No. Please keep going.
Well, so I think as we're talking about this topic of this, how to stand out, right? How to stand out to be an in-demand leader, expert in your field.
Yeah.
A big part, I would say, is that not only you want to be really good at what you do, right? I feel like a lot of us are really talented, capable at what we do and mastering your skill. That's like baseline. To me, that's like the baseline piece. The second piece is like, how do you get people to know that you're amazing at what you do? How do you get yourself out there? That's the visibility piece. How do you raise that awareness?
Yes. Let's dive into that.
Right?
How do you do that? What do you teach?
Yeah. And so this is a big part, first of all, is like, well, we need to first recognize that we get to control our narrative and brand. And second of all, is we get to shape that perception. And so we really want to think about like, what's the story that you want to put out there? Like, what do you really want to be known for? Like when you're not in the room, what do you want people to say about you? And so what are things that you can start highlighting that showcase this is what you're great at? So for an instance, like recently, I just realized someone reminded me prior to starting my business, I generated $12 million in selling a six-figure program. It was over a decade ago that I haven't really talked about. And a coach reminded me like, that's part of your story that makes you great at what you do is you learn how to develop great relationships to sell high ticket without pressure. And so you want to tell those stories of how you did it for people to see this is what you're good at. It's what we call evidence of support, the proof points. The proof points is also then going to help people to track the people. Hey, this is the type of result that I want. And therefore, I want to hire you for that.
I love that.
And then you repeat it. You keep repeating, like, what are some of these stories? So one of the things I always talk about in selling yourself is a lot of times people just give fluff, meaning like, oh, I'm a good communicator. I'm a great speaker. And I always tell my clients, especially when you tell that you're a great communicator, but you got to give proof to that, right? Like the time when you actually were able to persuade someone or influence someone, that's the evidence. And that's when people see that, okay, you're really good at this skill. And this is what we need help with.
So when you're saying evidence, it's giving specific examples that you talk about. And what does that look like? Is it like posting about it? Is it talking about it during, performance reviews? Is it putting it on our social media? What does that look like tangibly and practically?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I do come from the branding online world. So I do believe having the online presence, even if you're in corporate, these days it's great to have. Like when we look at the current market, we really want to think about how do we future-proof your career and business? And so a big part starts with what can you control? What you can control is your narrative, which is what kind of stories do you want to share, right? What kind of problems that you want to tell people that you solve? What do you stand for in terms of your point of view? And so I like to think of it as like the 3 Ps, right? Of your point of view. What do you stand for? What type of problems you solve, like the how-to stuff of how you do things. And the proof, stories of you, stories of your clients. Those are the best case studies. And so when you have these 3 types of content or posts, that's when people see like, okay, it's not fluff. It's not just a fluff thing. It's an actual real thing. And that's what we have seen time and time over again, whether people are getting jobs or getting clients, getting sales, having stories with the concepts of what you teach is what's going to really build trust to convert. Yeah.
So when you say, okay, I want to hear a little bit about this. When you say this, I love that you put this intersection up. What does that look like in terms of sharing stories? Is it like, oh, I recently helped a client do this and this and this, and then like putting it on your LinkedIn? Is it sharing, especially I think the one of what you believe, because I feel like that's a hard one for a lot of people to talk about because they're kind of like, I don't know, I'm an accountant. Like, what do I believe in about accounting?
Yeah. So I think the first step to if you're looking at it from your profession standpoint, is we got to really take what we've done from responsibilities to results. So turning your responsibilities into results. That's like the number one thing to think about.
So good. I'm flagging this. Keep going.
When you turn your responsibility results, you change it from this was just part of my job to this was the impact that I made. And so that will change how people see you. So for example, start thinking of using words of what we call I'm getting technical right now, but action verbs, right? Like you develop, you build, you achieve. So for my case, I would say things like, I help my clients build a 6-figure business in 6 months. And the way we did that was, number one, we had to get clear on who they're going after. Number two, optimize their offer. Second, and the third is like the messaging. So we got to get really clear the tangible things you did that led to that result, so that they see that you have a method to what you do, of how you can guide them.
I like that. Oh, there's a lot of clarity. So it's I help X do Y in or like by doing something. That's almost like a formula.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've done a lot of interview coaching. I've helped thousands of people, thousands of hours now of one-on-one interview coaching from entry level all the way to C-level, people getting hired. And one of the common mistake or fear people have is actually tooting their own horn, like talk about how amazing they are. But when you think about it, the number one question you're answering is, why should they hire you? Why should they hire you? The number one question you need to be able to answer.
Literally why you're there. That's all they want to know.
Right? And so if you can't speak to that with confidence, with certainty, with conviction, you're out. Especially when you're trying to get hired into these top companies who are looking for the best of the best. So something that I teach is identify your top 3 unique selling points. So think of headlines, your top 3 unique selling points. What would they be? Like a newspaper headline statement, what would they be? And then once you have these top 3 selling points, what you want to do is what we call is tell the story. Like, what's the story behind this? And give that proof and evidence so that you're backing up this unique selling point that you have. And then you wrap it up with connecting the dots of, why does this matter to the buyer, the hiring manager, or the client who's about to purchase here? Why does this matter to them? Is it the fact that you're going to help them solve their problem faster? You're going to make them more money, save costs. You're going to make their life easier. Whatever that is, if you can connect those dots, you're solving a big pain point. Right? So that's the step that you want to be able to talk about, because that's how you're going to, what we call it, close. A sell is like, you got like these 3 points, punchlines. You tell the story, you connect it back why this matters to them. They're like, wow, you get me. You know my pain point. You know what I'm trying to achieve.
Right. It's, why are you the best person to hire? And then it's clarifying, like, for organized, especially I think for those who are being selected as leaders or advisors or that next level up, it's always from the perspective of not just a company, but also the people that are going to be served by you. So why should people care? Why should they trust you?
Totally. Why should they trust you?
Hey, I just wanted to let you know that Big Asian Energy is officially out, and you can go and pick it up anywhere you buy books, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, etc. If you've ever felt like there's something stopping you from reaching your full potential, if you've ever felt like you want to have that unstoppable charisma and confidence in the work that you do, as well as just the way you show up in life, this might be the book for you. It is a book that is jam-packed with research studies, advice, case studies, stories, and of course, so many different techniques and takeaways, including communication, as well as mindset, as well as confidence, and all the other topics out there. It just won one of the best books of 2025 on Amazon. So if you haven't checked it out yet, go take a look. And finally, if you have a few seconds, can I also ask you to leave a quick review for Big Asian Energy? It not only means the world to us to hear from you, but more importantly, it does absolutely help us in reaching more audiences. I hope you're having an amazing day, and thanks again.
The other question to take another step is what differentiates you, right? And when in an interview setting, you're competing against like multiple people. And so you want to be able to really think about your own skill set, your expertise, your competencies. What really differentiates? What's better? Is it the fact you can identify the core issue quickly, or is it the fact you can help people make way more money? Whatever that is, like, you want to pinpoint that of what you do better and differently that makes you the undeniable choice.
I love it. Now, I want to lead in a little bit more, because when we were, going through and doing a little bit more research about your work, I like that you have this 4 core levers thing that you talk about, which is positioning, visibility, credibility, and relatability. Can you dive in a little bit deeper on those things?
Absolutely. So this ties into my core company name, which is My Marketability. It all started with magnifying your marketability to be in demand. So I believe the 4 core pillars of elevating your marketability to be more in demand is, number 1, we need to, one, increase that marketability, which is the positioning piece, is how do you want others to see you, right? Like what's that main unique selling point that you really want to highlight so that people will see you differently? So that's the positioning piece. Number two is really around the credibility, which is like, what's your track record of success? Think of that. What's your track record of success? Whether it's accolades, it's awards, it's achievements, it's any of the proof stories. It's going to be like people like, wow, that's amazing. That will make you stand out as like the top candidate there. That's number two. Okay. Number three, then is the visibility, which is like putting yourself out there. Where do we need to essentially put yourself out there? Which is like, think of the PR marketing piece. Where do you need to show up, whether it's events or networking or in meetings or in social media channels where more people can know about you so that they can be your greatest advocate or champion. That's the third piece, the visibility, because that gives you leverage. Number fourth is the relatability. The relatability is really go back to your authenticity of who you are. This is where you want to be able to showcase more of your stories, your why you do, what makes you tick, what gets you excited. This is that fun personality piece where people can feel you, where they can relate to you. And so for me, when I started sharing more of my own vulnerable stories on LinkedIn back in 2021, where I talked about moving to Canada, from Hong Kong to Canada on my own, and talked about my struggles with imposter syndrome, that following year was when I got LinkedIn Top Voice. And it made me realize it wasn't me being perfect of having to have all these success achievements, but the fact that I also shared my own stories, my own struggles that people could relate to was what led to that achievement there. And so those are the four pillars I talk about. When we keep those in mind, at the end of the day, you're still being yourself. You're proud of what you've accomplished. You're putting yourself out there so that you're known and seen. Right? And you're sharing with people what you have to offer at the end of the day.
I love that. So those are the four pillars. Whenever you're walking into any kind of communication, any kind of interview on stage, these are the four things we always had to be coming back to thinking about. You know, how I'm showing up in my own stories. I love showing up. I love vulnerability. I love sharing those moments of struggles that we have, because it isn't about trauma dumping, which I think is some things that people are worried about. It's like, oh, if I'm just talking about all the ways that I failed, but it actually is talking about relatability. How do we know and can connect to you on a long-term scale? That is
absolutely
such a big part of it. And honestly, since this is a show called Big Asian Energy, it's something that I think a lot of Asian people are not good at. Like if you think about those four things that you just talked about, visibility goes so deeply against so many of our core values, right? Like we're always taught, be humble, keep your head down. And you're like, stop being humble. Like put your head up, like go be seen. How we position ourselves is like to be seen as the expert in something. That's a scary thing to say, to claim, but we all have expertise, even if we're not trying to claim to be an expert, right? Like it's okay to have and own your expertise, your perspectives, your worldviews. And that's what you're an expert in, is you're an expert in your own worldview.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm so passionate about this because growing up in Hong Kong, I was raised to obviously be humble, don't rock the boat, don't talk about your success or accomplishments. So I grew up, that was like the values of what was instilled in me from my parents. And so it took a long, long time for me to overcome this. It really wasn't until I started doing this work and helping other people to see that I needed to unlearn. Right. It's not like getting rid of it. I still believe in, like, I have the value of like respect, being humble, but yet also this view of how do you see yourself? How do you view yourself? What's that narrative that you're telling? So an example would be when someone gives you a compliment, do you receive it with gratitude and grace, or do you push it away? Like, oh no, that's not me. Oh, da, da, da. Or I was just lucky. How many of you said that before? I've said that many times.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not that good.
I was just lucky. I was just in the right place at the right time. No, like that, like it's immediate reaction of like pushing it away, right?
Right, absolutely. And so this is what I learned. When there's a giver, there's a receiver. So when someone's giving you a compliment, you want to receive it with grace and gratitude, because otherwise you're pushing the gift away that someone wants to give you. And so when you hear more of that, are you really receiving with gratitude? Like, wow, this is what they told me. This is what they see in me. And they give that acknowledgement. Because when you start acknowledging yourself more, it allows you to operate at your next new level. When you start seeing yourself differently, that this is your new level of in terms of result and win, you operate at a new level. But when you don't receive that, you're rejecting that, you are continuing to play small. You are still hiding. You're not playing a bigger game. And so this is the shift from going from, okay, having this desire that, hey, I want this, meaning like, I want this, let's say promotion, I want this achievement, I want this goal, to also having this fire that you're going to give it your all. Like, are you willing to be courageous to take massive, messy action to make it happen and believe yourself and becoming that next version of you? And so you got to be able to start receiving your own greatness, your awesomeness and uniqueness so that you can step into that. And so the reality here, I'm going to talk about, since we're talking struggles here, is we need to essentially stop underselling, underrepresenting, undermining ourselves, and really start owning your unique value, your worth, and visibility with confidence. And when you do that, that's where things open up, like magic opportunities open up. You don't even need to stress about it. You're naturally calling it in already because you believe it's already a done deal.
Yeah. I love that. I love that mindset perspective of like seeing things not from a should or from an if, but seeing it as it's already happened. Imagine for a second, if you're thinking about like going for a goal, like there's studies that have shown this. It's such a great mindset tool where instead of visualizing, oh, like I'm going to go do this, and our brain immediately does what? Like we start thinking of all the ways it could go wrong, right? And we're going to go give a speech and it's like, oh my God, what if I forget my notes? What if I forget what I'm going to say? What if I start tripping over my words? And instead of visualizing the ifs, we visualize it as if it's happened and go, this is something I still do, by the way, when I give talks. Whenever I had to go on stage, I start by visualizing what does it feel like to walk off stage in that moment? Like, what does it feel like to like literally? I will picture, like half an hour when I'm in the waiting room before they call me to give a keynote or something like that. This is all I'm literally doing. I'm not looking at my notes. I'm not going over my script. I'm just sitting there repeatedly visualizing how it feels to hear the applause and walk off stage and what that feels like, that relief, that relaxation, that like strength. And then when I walk on stage with that energy, it is a completely different effect than if I'm just like, okay, I better not screw this up. I better remember what are my key points, what are the things I'm going to say, make sure I got the body language right. Because at that point, I'm like, it's already been done, right? The second time is always easier.
Absolutely. The brain can't tell imagination versus reality.
Yeah.
So you already visualize it, that it's already done. So it's already real.
Yeah.
And so
it's like that basketball thing that they talk about, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. So you're already embodying, and this actually ties in back to what we were talking about earlier. You already embodying, you're trusting yourself. You're then speaking from your heart, then your head, because you already know it's going to be a success. It's already a success. So you're speaking from here versus the heart versus the head.
There it is. Yeah. It's
and just imagine that for a second. When you are really speaking from your heart, how does the room feel? How does your audience feel? They feel more connected to you. They feel that you're authentic. They feel that you're there with them. You are more presence. What you're giving them is your presence. First is catching yourself of what didn't I say, or if I screwed up. That's the big shift. When you can start being in that moment with your audience is where you're really going to connect with them.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's such a big difference. I coach people on communication, and there's such a big difference when we hear it. And I'll often get people to try recording themselves when they're speaking from their body, right? It's a somatic experience. So it's like what that looks like. It's like that breath work. We get them to do some breath work. We get them to think about the person. We get them to connect. Like there's a difference between talking at and speaking with, right? So when we're in our heads, everything sounds a little bit two-dimensional. And it's like, hi, everyone, my name is John, and I'm here to talk to you about this important topic about AI, and it's going to revolutionize your entire workflow. And we're going to start with this first point. Like people just tune out immediately.
It's robotic. It sounds robotic.
It's so robotic, as opposed to going, you know what, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to speak with you. We're going to communicate this as if we're two people in a room at a coffee table, kind of catching up, and you're interested in being like, you know, I was really thinking about this the other day. I was talking to a friend about AI, and I realized, oh my gosh, like everything's going to change in the next 3 months. And then I slowed down and I started actually looking at what's in front of me. And I realized there's some really important key takeaways that would really change the way we work in a positive way if we approach it differently. And there's such a big difference. Like we could break it down into like, oh, notice your cadence difference, notice your voice changes. Like, but really it just comes back to, are you speaking from your body or are you speaking from your head, right? When you're saying, are you speaking from your heart as opposed to your head?
Absolutely. You know, as you're talking about this, the question I have for the audience to think about is, how much do you trust yourself? Do you trust yourself? We talk about the belief, and do you trust yourself? And do you value yourself? Do you see what you do or what you're here to do is to be of service to others? When you see yourself as being of service and making an impact, it shifts the way you show up and present yourself. And this is a classic example when people don't enjoy selling themselves, promoting themselves, where they feel like it's icky, it's arrogant, it's boastful. But when you can shift of how selling is serving and how what you do matters, makes a difference, it changes the dynamic energy of what you'll talk about, because you see the story that you're sharing. It's not about you. It's about what's possible for others. When you start sharing your own wins, your client wins, your team wins, you are showcasing others of what's possible for them.
Right. You're not just doing it for you, you're elevating the people around you.
Yeah. And you're giving them permission to play a bigger game. That's the piece there. When you see that, you're getting others like, yeah, I'm going to play a bigger game because they start believing in me and showcasing what's possible. I
love that. What is your favorite LinkedIn course that you've taught so far? Of all the courses that you've taught? Well,
so
what is the most popular? What is the favorite?
So the most popular one is Overcoming Imposter Syndrome. It recently crossed over 200,000 views in the last several months. And so I know this is a hot topic in terms of imposter syndrome, where people are having a lot of doubts. And so this is the most popular right now. The hardest course I created was around navigating bias and stereotypes as an Asian professional.
Oh, okay. Tell me more about that one.
That was the hardest course I created. I'm like, why did I pitch myself for this course?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
But it was also a healing for me to create this course, I have to tell you, because it brought up a lot of the stereotypes, the bias that I faced growing up that I had to learn to heal and how to deal with that. And so it was hard because I had to face a lot of my own insecurities or racism that I faced and learn to, okay, how would I deal with that if this situation pops up again? So I gave really practical advice. So like, if this happens, what would you do? And so I'm really proud of it. I'm really, really proud I created this course on overcoming bias and stereotype. And my favorite course that I thought it would do well that hasn't done well is on building a personal brand in digital networking. It's like two of my most hottest topics I always get invited to.
Why do you think that one didn't do well?
I don't think people see it as important, defining a personal brand or networking. It's interesting. I think that I talk a lot about it, but most people maybe don't see it as important. Imposter syndrome is a pain, is a fear. That's why it does so well. The next course that's done really well is mastering interviews, job interviews. That course has done well because people need to get jobs.
Yep. Especially now more than ever.
They're scared of talking about themselves. So those are my two most popular courses that people love taking. And what I'm seeing when people DM me, message me about it, is shifting the way they see themselves, how they see themselves, meaning you see yourself in a more positive light. Like, do you really give yourself a pat on the back for doing this project or achieving this? Like, one of the questions I always like to ask people, if you don't believe in value, ask yourself this reverse engineering question. What would have not happened if you weren't there? What would not have happened if you were not part of this project? And you're going to start counting these things like, if I wasn't there, I wouldn't have created this, built this, developed this, coordinated this. That's your proof of evidence of your value. When you start collecting evidence of your value, you're going to start seeing yourself in a different light, and you're going to start telling the story in a different light. Right?
I really love that question, is what would have happened or what would not have happened if I wasn't there? Because I think that for a lot of us, we chalk it up to the team, right? We chalk it up to like, oh yeah, like it wasn't me, it was all of us kind of doing it, because it feels really arrogant to say, oh, like I did this when you're part of a team. But the truth is that we all have contributions, we all have responsibilities, and those things that we did, if it weren't for us, could have led to other possibly disastrous outcomes. So the ability to recognize that change is such an important one.
Absolutely. And so one of the language that we want to change when we are selling ourselves is the balance of we versus I. We versus I. Like for job interviews, a lot of times people want to be humble, like we did this, but really you're the one who's being interviewed for this job, like why people should hire you. So if you can't clearly articulate what did you do, what value did you bring, the impact that you made, you're not giving people a good idea and assessment of what kind of impact you make when you come into this new job. And so you got to own that. We got to start owning it and distinguish between what the team did versus what you did. That's the distinguish of an exercise we need to be able to do in recognizing your value. And so when you think about this, why this topic of or everything that ties back into it is that of how to stand out. In order to stand out, it actually starts from within us. Is how much do we value what we bring to the table? How much do you believe the change or impact or transformation that you can make? Because when you believe in that, the way you speak, it sounds what? More compelling, more convincing, more captivating.
Yeah, more captivating. Ooh, I like that. Right. Absolutely.
At the end of the day. Yeah. And so that will shift everything when you start seeing yourself differently. Because there's more certainty. The way you communicate becomes more certain. And so then the resonance to the audience, the buyer, is higher.
And we're always
they
selling.
Feel you.
Yeah. We're always selling. When we're at work, we're not just during interviews, we're selling ourselves, but we're selling ourselves to our clients, are selling our ideas to our peers. We're selling our work to our bosses. Like in some way or the other, the truth is we're always pitching something that is affecting how their lives, how their outcomes, how their bottom line is going to show up.
Exactly. And I'm going to add another nugget here because we talk about always selling. There's a saying in sales that features tell, benefits sell. Features tell, benefits sell.
I love it. Okay. Yep. Keep going.
So features is essentially you're talking about your skills, your experience. I have all these. Benefits is the so what? Like what does this do for the buyer, the employer? It's a so what where you need to connect the dots. So one of the biggest mistakes people make of why they don't get hired is they are selling features versus benefits. They're just talking about, I have this, and this.
I have this credential. I have this experience. I have this education, rather than the outcome.
Yes. Yeah. I have all these. So therefore I can help you with solving this problem faster. I can help you save X amount of dollars. I can help you make X amount of money, or I can help you get there faster. And so when you can start speaking of the benefits, the outcome of it, it's going to feel like you're speaking to them, the outcome that they want. They don't care about the features. Yes, they care about, but it's not what's going to really close.
I love that. That is absolutely fascinating. Yeah. I want to kind of bring us to a close and have one big final question, because I think this is a really, I would say, personal one, which is when you see people launching something new, because you do business coaching right now, you work a lot with new entrepreneurs and speakers and all these kind of things. When you see people first starting off and they don't, you already talked about, they often don't believe in themselves. They often struggle with imposter syndrome. They often encounter self-doubt. But what is the biggest mistakes you see people making when they're just starting off?
Yeah. So I would say the biggest mistake I see people make is undercharging themselves.
Oh.
The biggest mistake. And so this ties all back, everything we talked about today, John, is undervaluing yourself. Like the number one thing that I do for clients when they come work with me is I've had clients go from a few $100 to like $5K, $10K, and of charging the program services. And so a big part is they're undercharging, undervaluing. And it's because they come from a bit of a desperate energy. It's like, well, I don't have experience yet. I haven't done this yet. So therefore it should be this. But when you can really look at the work that you do in terms of an impact and transformation level, it will change the way you position yourself, the way you package your services. Mm-hmm. So the number one mistake is people are undercharging. And so what makes me so happy and excited is when I see people go from under like 2K months to 5K months, 10K months, 20K, 40K months. It makes me so happy because it's not just about the pricing piece. It's the psychology of belief that they are worthy, that they're valuable, and that they're going to make a big impact to the work that they do. That is the work that I love doing, is that transformation of how they see themselves that will have a tangible outcome in their bottom line of their business in the work that they do for their clients.
I love that.
Ooh,
yeah.
That's a good question.
Big...
Ooh, got me fired up here.
Let's go. Amazing. Is there anything else you want to share before we close up for the day?
Yeah, well, if anyone wants to connect with me, I would love for them to send an invite on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active on LinkedIn, is send an invite, send a message that you met me here or about my podcast here with John, and check out my LinkedIn learning courses. I would love for you to view it, check it out, share it with others, write a review. That's a great way to get the value that you need, but also share with others as well there.
Yeah, there's some really great stuff there. And don't worry, we're going to have all the links to the courses, to Diana's LinkedIn and everything like that, all in the show notes. So if you're listening to this in a car, driving around or something like that, make sure to pause and, make sure to come back to it. You can also check out Diana's work at her website, which is mymarketability.com. That again is just one word, mymarketability.com. There's some really good stuff on there, as well as the fact that she's got YouTube courses and LinkedIn learning courses and all of the free resources that is going to help you make 2026 really the most profitable year, hopefully, of your career so far, and exponentially increase from there. Thank you so much, Diana, for coming on the show. We love the resources and all the advice that you shared. Is there anything final you want to say?
Yeah, I want to give you a shout out, John. I just want to say I love the work you do with Big Asian Energy. I remember reading your book literally within 2 days or so on my plane ride to Austin. And I just want to say that I love what you do and your mission, and I'm here to support you. So I want to encourage anyone who has not read your book to absolutely read the book, Big Asian Energy. I'm a big fan. Like, I'm telling all my friends about it. And so this makes me so happy and grateful that I got to do this interview with you, because I totally align with a lot of the stories, philosophies, and techniques and teach what you teach. And so thank you so much for having me here today, and really happy to call you my friend here.
Oh, thanks so much, Diane. You're such a sweetheart. So appreciate you. Once again, as always, our biggest mission here on Big Asian Energy is to rise together, support one another, and create an Asian American community that helps us go out there, be seen, be heard, and get paid doing it. Once again, this is Diana and John, your friends. And don't forget to come back next week and check out our episode every Tuesday, every week. Have a good one.